Hello everyone, welcome to another video where I'm going to discuss some of the films that I've been watching lately, and hopefully I'm going to be watching more films and I'm going to get to more of these videos more frequently. I've recently been going through the Godfather series, the trilogy. I only watched the first one again. These are films I've seen before. In fact, every movie I'm going to talk about in this particular video are rewatches. They're not first-time views. But The Godfather, I figured what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait till I do all three of these and get them viewed, and then I'm going to just do maybe one video talking about the whole series. From time to time, I'll do that rather than just do quickies. I'll kind of like dedicate one video to one movie or a series of movies. Okay? All right. To start with for this video proper, I'm going to talk about a movie I watched over the Easter weekend. I like to watch biblical movies a lot of times on Easter. So I went with this 1953 film that I'd seen before, The Robe. This is noteworthy because it's considered the very first film that was ever shot in the CinemaScope widescreen process. There's some debate about that because I think a lot of people think it could be actually the movie called How to Marry a Millionaire starring Marilyn Monroe. That was actually the first CinemaScope movie. I don't know. I'll leave that up to you to decide. For all intents and purposes, I think we're going to stick with The Robe. I think it's pretty much recognized as the first one. So, The Robe stars Richard Burton. This is the only movie I have, I believe, featuring Richard Burton other than Exorcist 2. That's another story altogether. Very different from this. This is an epic, but it's not one of my favorite epics. It's good, but it's not great. It's no Ten Commandments, and it's no Ben-Hur, for example. In this movie, we have Richard Burton, we have Gene Simmons, Victor Mature, and also Michael Rennie and Jay Robinson. So I'm going to go through all of those actors and tell you what they do. First of all, Richard Burton stars as a Roman soldier back in the days of Christ, is actually assigned the job of having to crucify Jesus, nail him to the cross. And the film starts with him being very aloof, very full of power, a typical Roman soldier. And he has a slave. The slave is played by Victor Mature. Victor Mature is a follower of Jesus. He's a devoted Christian. And of course, the Richard Burton soldier is not. And after he murders Jesus and nails him to the cross, Richard Burton's character is haunted by the robe that Jesus wore. And to him, it almost has evil magical powers. It torments him. It causes physical pain. He absolutely can't sleep at night, thinking about what he did, the guilt of nailing Jesus to the cross. And the story pretty much is him kind of overcoming this fear and this discomfort that he feels after what he did to Jesus and turning around and trying to become more of a follower in the Christian path. And I say Richard Burton is perfect for this part. Gene Simmons, for whatever reason, doesn't really impress me in this movie. Doesn't stand out to me much. I very much enjoy Michael Rennie. Michael Rennie plays the part of the Apostle Peter, who was very holy. He looks the part. He acts the part. You can feel the glowing presence of God around him. It's how good he is in this movie, Michael Rennie. Jay Robinson plays the evil leader, Caligula, and Jay Robinson was a stage actor who was really, really over the top. In this movie, particularly, he just goes all out and just exaggerates everything. You either love it or you hate it. It's fun in a way, He's very much over the top in here, Jay Robinson as Caligula. But then again, Caligula was supposed to be a crazy, larger than life, insane character, so that kind of works in its favor in a way. Yeah. So this movie was pretty good. Out of 4 stars, I give it 3 out of 4. Then also on Easter Sunday, I watched the sequel. There was a very quick sequel made right after this film, and it follows the character of Victor Mature, and he leads the second movie in here, and it's called Demetrius and the Gladiators. I was looking to upgrade this on Blu-ray until I noticed online this thing is worth a fortune. This thing is like $100 DVD now. It's hard to find apparently, so I'm glad I have it. But Victor Mature takes center stage in this one. He's the slave that was a follower of Jesus and a devout Christian, but through things that happen in here in his life, he falls out with God and he starts to renounce Jesus, and kind of loses his path, and he winds up being a gladiator in the arena. And there were a lot of good fight scenes in here in the arena stage. I would say that for people looking to watch a movie who are not really that seasoned on the first movie, The Robe, you may like this better. This movie is just as good, and in some ways a little bit more enjoyable even than The Robe. I think it's a good sequel. I like Susan Hayward in this movie. She plays a vixen that kind of is in power, and she kind of wants the Victor Mature character, falls in love with him and wants to try to sway him. So she kind of poisons his mind, that kind of thing. In this movie, you also have Ernest Borgnine on hand. He plays the person who trains all these gladiators to fight in the arena. And there's some good fight scenes in the arena. There really are. Enjoyable. And you have also, again, coming back, Jay Robinson as Caligula again, maybe even more, over the top than the first movie. And Michael Rennie returns again as Peter the Apostle. And again, Michael Rennie is a real bonus in this movie, too. Next up, we have a 1962 drama called Cape Fear. This was remade. A lot of people may know the remake of this. 1991, it was remade by Martin Scorsese and starred Robert De Niro as the bad guy. And that's a really good version. This is just as good. This is directed by J. Lee Thompson. J. Lee Thompson did movies like The Guns of Navarone, I believe, and also for me personally, it's two of my favorite science fiction films. J. Lee Thompson did Conquest of the Planet of the Apes and also Battle for the Planet of the Apes. So that's interesting for me anyway. Gregory Peck is the good guy in here, and Robert Mitchum is the bad guy. As we talk about a lawyer, and of course, Gregory Peck plays the lawyer, and he's perfect. I mean, if he's not attorney-like, I don't know who is. I mean, he could very much see Peck in a role like this, and he does well. Robert Mitchum is an ex-con named Max Cady, and Cady has been, nailed and set up by the lawyer Gregory Peck. And when Cady finally gets his freedom, the first thing he wants to do is go back and make this guy's life miserable. Who actually got him in prison. So he's also got a bunch of screws loose. So you can imagine what it's like for somebody crazy like Robert Mitchum, who's really, really intense and scary in this movie, to look at revenge and murder and torment. He stalks the family, goes after the wife, the daughter, makes the lawyer's life a living hell, actually. And now he has to take steps to try to stop him. So this is a very interesting movie. And again, out of 4 stars, I give it 3 stars. A good movie. Now we're going to change a little bit here to a couple of comedies. These are from the 1980s. First up, we have a comedy from 1983 called Easy Money, and it stars Rodney Dangerfield, who I actually think is the funniest stand-up comedian ever. So I've always liked Rodney, and I think this is the first film where he actually is the main character. I mean, he did stuff like Caddyshack before this, where he's in the cast. But I think, if I'm not mistaken, this is his first film where he's up front and leads it. Personally, it's my favorite of the Rodney Dangerfield movies, of the ones I've seen. I saw it Back to School in the theater. Don't remember liking it as much as this, but it's been a lot of years. And I certainly didn't like Ladybugs, another Rodney Dangerfield vehicle. Didn't like that better than this. This is my favorite of them. It's a funny movie. Rodney Dangerfield plays a loser called Monty, and he's a husband and a father, but he likes to gamble, he likes to drink, he likes to overeat, he likes to smoke. He's a philanderer. He does all kinds of things that a father and husband really shouldn't do. And it's done very funny in the Rodney Dangerfield way. There are a lot of good lines in here, a lot of good scenarios, situations that they're in. Joe Pesci, this is the first time that I think I'd ever heard of Joe Pesci. I didn't know of him before this, but I saw this movie. And he's funny as well. He plays Rodney's best friend, but he's also a bad influence. He's an enabler. Here's Rodney trying to get his act together, and this guy won't allow him to do it. But the whole thing is that the Rodney character has a real nasty bitch of a mother-in-law who hates her son-in-law because of all the things he is. And when she dies, it's left in her will that the family will inherit her fortune and be rich and millionaires. if in 1 year's time Monty can get his act together, lose a lot of weight, stop drinking, stop smoking, stop gambling, stop chasing women, stop doing everything, completely turn himself around in a year, and then they're going to have all this money. So that's what it's really about. And of course, that creates a lot of opportunities for funny bits. So yeah, this is a fun early '80s comedy. One thing I'll say about it is one of his daughters is played by Jennifer Jason Leigh, who you remember from Fast Times at Ridgemont High, of course, which was just before this. And I will say that the scenes in here that slow the movie down for me, the only thing that I don't like, although they're kind of humorous, are scenes where the Jennifer Jason Leigh daughter character is married to a man who Monty doesn't like, and they eventually split up, and then he's trying to get her back, and he's doing all these kind of efforts to try and appeal to her again, and she's resisting him. And to me, anytime those scenes are on, it slows the movie down. I personally wouldn't have minded if all that stuff was cut out of the film and we just concentrate on Rodney, because let's say the scenes are humorous enough, but they don't really add to anything. They detract a little bit, but still, it's funny enough that I give this 3 out of 4 stars. Also, you notice there's a pattern here. A lot of 3 out of 4s I'm doing here. Next up, we have another comedy, this one from 1983 also. This is Steve Martin in The Lonely Guy, and this is probably my favorite Steve Martin movie. It's a heartwarming story. It's a bit of a love story, but it's also, when you're talking about Steve Martin, beware, it's a stupid, silly comedy. So if you don't like Steve Martin, you're not going to really get much out of this. But he plays a guy who just broke up with his girlfriend, and now he's out on the streets without an apartment, without anybody in his life, and he's lonely, and he's trying his best to meet girls and friends and things like that. And a standout in this movie is a character played by Charles Grodin. Charles Grodin is very good in here as another lonely guy, even more of a loser, more lost than the Steve Martin guy. And two of them are buddies, and they try to find love and everything. And eventually, he does find love. The Steve Martin guy does, but that's a whole other story. What happens? It's a funny movie, but again, it's completely silly, slapsticky, dumb. It's not for everybody, but for me, I thought it's a lot of fun. Again, out of 4 stars, this is 3. I should mention, by the way, when I do my ratings of 4 stars, I don't do 5. 1 means poor, like I was saying. 2 means fair. 3 means good, and 4 means great. So, finally, I have a horror film, and of course, I mean, I'm not going to do any videos here most of the time without mentioning at least one horror film. This is a cheesy, not very good, but okay, 1957 to be exact, release. This is called Daughter of Dr. Jekyll, and it stars John Agar, who you may know for science fiction 50s films like Tarantula and the Brain from Planet Arros and all other kinds of films. Also stars Gloria Talbot. She's most known for a film, a science fiction cheeseball called I Married a Monster from Outer Space. It's not the best of these kinds of films. What it is about, it's about Gloria Talbot playing the daughter of the infamous Jekyll, who she has to inherit at her 21st birthday the estate of her late father. And also, when she turns 21, she gets all the money. But she also finds out from her guardian. Her guardian is played by Arthur Shields. Arthur Shields, the guardian, informs her that you've inherited a lot more than just the money and the property. You've also inherited a curse, and it's the curse of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, because, of course, her infamous father used to turn into Mr. Hyde, and he was a serial killer. So the result is this goes to her brain, and she starts panicking, and she has nightmares about herself killing people, and she thinks she's a monster. Is she or isn't she? That kind of thing. Is she the killer? Is she not the killer? She's having these horrible dreams and everything. Is she going to inherit the curse in the sense that it's in her genetics? She's going to maybe the potion that her father drank made her a monster. There is a monster in this film, I will say, because that's important for people like me that like these movies. You know, there was a movie about Dr. Jekyll made several years earlier in the 50s called Son of Dr. Jekyll. No relation to this movie. It was a completely different studio. It was more of a high class studio, Columbia, but yet that one was really a bore. That one is almost unwatchable to me personally. At least this one has a monster in it, even though it's cheesy, it's cheap. It's really like nickel and dime. This one, it's got its moments. On a scale of 4 stars, I would give this 2 stars, which means fair. And before I forget to mention it, probably the most important fact is this was directed by Edgar Ulmer. Edgar Ulmer also directed 1934's The Black Cat with Boris Karloff and Bela Lugosi, and that's a classic. This one, it's no classic, but I thought I'd be sure to get that in at the end. Ulmer directed this, and you would never know. I mean, there's nothing really in here to match anything in The Black Cat. It just goes to show you, not in all cases are directors the ones who are responsible for the finished product. It's actors, also it's music, it's the soundtrack, it's costumes, it's a whole bunch of stuff all together. That's it. Hope to see you next time, folks. Please subscribe if you haven't.